good evening to one and all present here. Welcome to the final round of the Swachhta Pakhwada 2021 debate and discussion. Firstly, I am pleased to announce that our judges for today have arrived. Our three judges today are our super seniors from the fourth year. Well, I'm sure that they will not need any kind of introduction, as they are one of the most popular names in NIT Silchar today and have been a very important part of the Illuminits family. They are my mentors and my role models too. We are immensely honored to have you here today, Bhaiya and Didi. Our first judge for today is Ayushi Johari Didi, the Secretary General of NITSMAN. I request Didi to come and address the crowd and the participants.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aditya, for that amazing introduction. So, hi everyone, I am Ayushi Johari. I am in my fourth year and my branch is Computer Science and Engineering. So, yes, we were told that we are going to have this debate competition, and I feel that this is a great initiative and this will definitely help all of us to get more aware of the issues going on in the world, what we're going to talk about today. So I look forward to judging this event and widening my horizons definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Didi. Deeply honored, Didi. Our second judge for today is Deepjoy De Bhaiya, the Director General of NITSMAN. Bhaiya, I request you to address the crowd.
Sorry guys, okay, Aditya, am I audible?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay, sorry guys, I couldn't turn on my camera. Actually, I'm having some network issues. But nevertheless, thank you for such an amazing introduction. I don't think so. The stature that you gave us, especially me, we belong to we are of that much importance. But thank you. The thing is, see, it's a very good initiative taken by the institute, but after the pandemic has hit us, what has happened, due to unavailability of each of us in the campus, we have stopped experiencing such kind of event. And the best part is we are getting to interact with the junior most students of the college, and that's the best thing for me that I'd be getting through this debate. And I've seen most of the students who are a part of this, and I've seen almost all of you being a part of many other events. As previously I was a part of Illuminits, and most of you been knowing. Three of the judges, we were part of Illuminits. So all of us know you somewhere or other. So it would be a good way to bond with you all again through this event. And I hope and expect to see a good debating experience from you all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya. We're deeply honored to have you today. Our third judge for today is Monjita Barua Didi, the Director General of NITSMAN. Didi, I request you to address the crowd.
Hey Aditya, thank you so much for the humbling. I'm so sorry, I had a crazy Windows update and now my microphone's not working on my laptop, so I'm on my phone. But hi everyone, it's so good to see you all. Many of you, even though we've never met, but I see a lot of you have participated in previous debates as well, and a lot of competitions here and there. So it's good to see the enthusiasm, despite not being able to be there in college and actually experience it real life. So great, guys. And as Joy and Ayushi both of them, they said it's a great way to bond, and also a great way for you guys to, unfortunately you couldn't experience college, the offline college, but this is how you can, be a part of the experiences here and there. And great work by by the institute, by the guys here who have been working so hard to put this thing up. And I'm pretty sure there have been previous rounds, and after all that work being done today, we're finally here in the final round. So good luck, guys, and hope to meet all of you soon, someday in the future, in real life. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Didi. So moving on, our motion for today is zoos should be banned. Moving to the rules and the regulations. The medium of argument will be English, and the participants will present their views either for or against the motion. Each speaker will get 3 minutes to put in their argument, that is, a minimum of 2 minutes and a maximum of 3 minutes. The speaker will have to conclude his or her speech at the end of the time limit, Otherwise, marks will get deducted. The timer will be on the screen, and at the end of 3 minutes, the speaker will have to conclude their speech within 5 to 10 seconds. After each speaker, there will be a rebuttal round of exactly 2 minutes, wherein the speaker will be questioned by the participants opposing his or her argument. Strictly, I repeat, strictly all questions will have to be precise and no cross-questioning will be permitted during this round. In case of any, the judges will have the complete right to warn or disqualify the candidate. To maintain a sense of sequence during the rebuttal round, all the participants will have to enter the questions in the chat box and then they will get a chance to ask them in the given order in the chat box. So this will definitely help us maintain a sense of sequence. A maximum of 3 questions will be entertained, but the other questions that will be entered will be considered by the judges. Well, a reminder, each participant will have to keep their camera on during their speech and also during the rebuttal. It will be a very important criteria for judging. So without any further ado, I think let's begin with the debate. And I would like to call upon our first speaker for today.
Yeah, Aditya, sorry to interrupt, but
Yes,
I just
Bhaiya.
want to make a few things. I just want to make a few things clear. So I'll
Ji,
just
Bhaiya.
I'll just let you guys know what would be the marking scheme and just a summary of what Aditya especially spoke as of now. So first, I'll go with the marking scheme. So if any one of you have any doubt on the marking scheme, you can just clarify it then and there. Then after that, I'll move to other points. Okay. So in the marking scheme, first we have content. So the 3 minute speech we'd be giving, and so the content marks will be given only based on the 3 minute speech. Okay. So there'll be 10 marks based on your content. So whatever you speak within that 3 minutes, that will be added to the marks of the content. Then we have 10 points for your fluency and vocabulary. Fluency means whenever you're speaking, we'll see that you you are not stammering or fumbling. See, a little bit of stammering is okay, but if you do it repeatedly and very rapidly, then it's pretty sure that we have to look into that also, right? So we are giving 5 marks into it, and vocabulary, the kind of words that you choose and how you are presenting the views, that would be for 5 marks. So 5 plus 5, 10. And again, your rebuttal, the last round, which would be for 2 minutes, as mentioned by Aditya. So 3 questions would be entertained. And regarding the cross questioning, see, if we that would be completely based on the discretion of the judges. So if we see that a very vague answer is being given by the speaker who is entertaining the question, then we'll again give a chance for question for the person who is asking the question, so that he can give a clear cut question again to the speaker. Okay, so it would be completely based on the discretion of the judges, and most of the time we won't entertain cross questioning. Okay, we keep it to minimum. So this pretty much regarding the marking scheme. If any one of you have any doubt, you can ask. And for rebuttal, you will be having 10 marks. So total mark would be 30. So just you can maybe turn on your mic, and you can ask the doubt regarding the marking scheme.
Bhaiya, I had a doubt regarding asking questions. Do we need
Sure.
to ask the questions through the chat box, or can we ask it directly?
Yeah, Aditya, so how are we doing it? After the speaker finishes his speech, or when they will be posting the questions?
Yeah, Bhaiya. So the speaker will be done with his speech, and as soon as he's done, the questionnaires have to put in their questions in the chat box, and then they will be allowed to ask the questions, but in the sequence that will be mentioned in the chat box. So if speaker
Okay, so it will be first, okay,
Yes,
first come
Bhaiya.
first serve basis. Okay.
Yes, Bhaiya.
So yeah,
Yes.
okay, as mentioned by Aditya, the questions would be asked on first come first serve basis, but don't worry, those whose question won't be asked, their points would be considered based on the quality of the question they are asking. Okay. So if you have any question, just as soon as you as soon as the speech is going on, you'd be instantly the question would be clicking in your mind. So don't wait for the question the speech to be finished. Just keep the question typed in your chat box. As soon as the speech is finished, just click the send button and send it in chat box. Okay, so do it in that way. That manner, what will happen, we won't have
Deepjoy,
Yeah.
like this is like very strict because do not disturb the speaker in between. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
have a pop-up of chat in the like window, you would obviously get distracted. So try not to do that and get your questions
Yeah,
ready, write in the chat and
yeah,
send it after the speech is over.
yeah. Keep this in mind, okay? Between the speech, like let the speaker finish, let him say thank you or whatever he says, then immediately you can send, okay? Otherwise, it will distract the speaker. And also regarding, yeah. So as I mentioned, so the like even if your question isn't asked, but you'd be getting points for asking a quality question. So as I mentioned, send the questions immediately so that we don't have any doubt of that you have just copied the question of any of the previous other like people who are asking the question. You have copied that third person's question and you're asking it again. So uh, for that not to happen, you just ask the question immediately, okay? So do that. And anything else, anyone has any other doubt? I hope I could
Uh,
clarify whoever asked the doubt. Yeah,
Yes,
speaker
Bhaiya.
6.
yes, Bhaiya. So what is the marking scheme in the rebuttal round? I didn't get that
So
part.
yeah, rebuttal round marking is 10 marks, so it would be both for question and answer.
So in the rebuttal round, the speaker can be asked questions again through the chat box, or
Yes.
like the questions that would be put in after the speaker completes, those questions would be answered during the rebuttal round. I'm not getting it actually.
Yeah, Bhaiya, can I like clarify the doubt? Yeah, so basically the questions will be entered in the chat box. And for example, if I enter the question first, and like there are a series of questions entered after that. So I will get
During the rebuttal
during
round,
the rebuttal
or
round after the speech.
okay,
So like immediately after the speech, you have to start entering your questions. And the person who has entered the question will get the opportunity to read to ask you the question. And then the speaker has to answer the question. And then in series, the next person who might have entered, he'll get a chance to ask the question. And then the series goes on. So that will be
okay.
the
So the
procedure.
rebuttal round would be just after the speaker finishes.
Yes, it will be just after the speaker finishes.
Okay.
Aditya, you should add one more point. Like those who are against the like speaker, they will only put the question. And second thing, keep your question specific and minimal, so that it doesn't take most of the rebuttal time. Keep
Yeah.
it like for 25 to 30 seconds or less than that. Don't go more in words.
Yeah, so I would like to like repeat Saurav's point once, that keep your questions concise and precise. Don't ask too many questions and too large questions. And yes, like best of luck to all the speakers, and let's hope for a success. So moving on, I would like to call upon our first speaker, Monaswini Mishra Devnath, who will be speaking for the motion. Yes, Bhaiya. Wait a second, Monaswini. Like, we'll just wait for Bhaiya to enter again. Mayushi Didi, like, should we begin, or like, should we like wait a few more minutes for Deepjoy Bhaiya?
Yeah, Aditya, I just talked to Deepjoy and he said he's facing some internet issues, so we can start.
Okay, Didi. So
Yeah,
Monaswini
Deepjoy,
Mishra.
network is fine.
Okay, Didi. So Monaswini Mishra, the stage is yours. All the best.
Good evening, all my seniors present here and my dear friends from both the benches. So the topic we are here to debate is upon, should the zoos be banned? And being the first speaker always gives you an advantage to set up the stage to talk about the backgrounds, and I don't know how I will be able to do that, but I'm trying my best. So zoos, as we all know, we all are knowing from the childhood itself, zoos are nothing but enclosed areas where the animals are being kept for displaying to the public. It's for the amusement, you can say, one sort of an amusement to the public, and also it is a profitable business. The state governments use zoos as a tourist spots to gain financially. So that's also that's done. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing which is wrong is from the animal's perspective. What is a zoo? It's nothing but a jail. What we call jail for human beings are exactly same as the zoos for the animals. And I cannot restrain myself from sharing a fact, though I think it will be a very much dramatic one. There was this film came by Sanjay Leela Bhansali. The name was Guzarish, and Ritik was playing a character whose whole body was paralytic. And there was one scene when he used to explain how he feels, to explain his restraints. He had to enclose the person in a box to just show what does being bound, being restrained means. So that is nothing what happens in the zoo. The animals are being enclosed in a very small area in the natural habitat where they are having sort of much of the areas to roam about. But in the zoos, they don't have that sort of advantage. So zoos always keep away from them the space, and also it is very humiliating for them. Many of the people who go and visit zoos, they try to tease them, they try to tease the animals, and just for their fun. So the animals have to undergo that pain also. So in my opinion, zoos, yes, it should be banned because we have other alternatives now. We have wildlife sanctuaries, we have national perfect biodiversity parks and sort of things, which does the same work even as the zoo, and to be honest, that does the work more precisely. They do the in situ conservation. That means the animals are not extracted from the natural habitat, but they are being conserved in their natural habitat itself. So I think as today, in today's time, we have the opportunity of conserving the animals in their natural habitat itself. So the concept of zoo, for me, it is just invalid. So I think it's time for us to say goodbye to the zoo and say goodbye to this inhumane practice. So as the time is up, so I'm concluding my point here.
Thank you, Manaswini. So as we can see, the questions have started to come in the chat box. And yeah, like I would now ask Jyotishka to ask his question, and then the timer will begin as soon as the question of Jyotishka is over. So Jyotishka, you may turn on your mic and your camera and you can read your question.
Thank you, Aditya.
Yes.
So Manaswini, I want to ask you that animals in the zoo are not only kept for entertainment, but a lot other purposes. Sometimes due to illness or for giving them proper care or protecting them from poachers, they're also kept in the zoos. So how can you just say that it's a source of amusement for us when there are many other factors considered while setting up a zoo?
Yes, so I like to answer that question. Yes, Jyotishko, you are right. The animals in the zoo are kept for other purposes also. But my point is that when you compare wildlife sanctuaries and national parks with zoos, which is more human? Of course, zoo is not human. And regarding the poachers, you say yes, there are very much incidents we know about where the poachers are killing. But see, every day in the newspaper we see news of murder. So that means what? All the human beings should be kept in cage so that there is no murder. That is not the solution. The solution is the government should employ more security forces in the forest to give immunity to the animal against the poachers. That is my point.
Yeah, Rida, you can stop the time. Yeah, so now I request the next person after Jyotishka, that is Radhika, to ask a question. As soon as the question is over, the timer will start again.
So my question is,
There are many advantages such as proper facilities for animals, medical facilities I mean. In case they fall ill in a wildlife environment, they won't get those facilities or immediate treatment. So how would you, in case they're in zoos, they would get proper treatment at the right point of time. So how is that a disadvantage, or how would zoos
Yes.
be a disadvantage in that case?
Yes, I'd like to answer that too. PETA has been researching about these zoos since 2005, and their standpoint is very much clear. The zoos should be banned, and the reasons they explain are very ill facilities in the zoos. The animals are showing neurotic and abnormal behaviors. They bang their heads on the cages and etc. etc. And the foods and the other medical facilities are not up to the mark. This is the standpoint of PETA. I don't know what I mean. If that will say something or not, but I think that says it all. And regarding that, zoos serve as place where animals can be treated, that can be done in anywhere else. I mean, if with proper facilities, you can have these facilities in any wildlife sanctuaries, in any national parks you want. So medical field, I don't think is the criteria to give a judgment on the zoo that no, zoos are good. I mean, that can be achieved anywhere else also. I think that's my answer.
Yeah. So now we'll give Isha her chance to ask the question. And yes, Monosmani, you will get an additional 10 seconds after the timer stops to conclude your answer. And the other speakers don't get sad, as your questions will be considered for judging.
Yeah, so Monoswini, I would like to ask you that you mentioned in your speech that zoos are basically enclosements for amusement. So I would like to mention that Jyotishka already mentioned that this is not the only reason why zoos are there. Also, zoos provide breeding grounds, and also they provide extensive care to the animals. Also, you had mentioned that wildlife sanctuaries provide a better environment for the survival. In contrast to that, I would like to present a fact over here that the giant white rhino, it got extinct last year probably in a wildlife sanctuary. So we can just hope that if they would have been taken to zoos or other XC2 conservation sites, they would have gotten proper care, and maybe we could have hoped for the survival. Also, I would like to add another example to this. The Iberian ibex, it went extinct because the locals, they didn't allow it to be taken into extensive care, and it died in its natural habitat itself. So how would you like to justify that?
Okay. So regarding that, I would like to say that these incidents will be there. I mean, of course, nothing can be 100%, nothing is 100% bulletproof or something of that sort, right? So, of course, these things will be there, and for that, we need to think about better alternatives than zoo, because again and again I'm saying that zoo is really very, very inhuman, and as we have science in our side in today's era, I think we should work on finding another alternative to zoos while doing the same work. And I think the time is up, so I have to conclude my speech here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monoswini. Moving on, I would like to call upon our second speaker for today, Jyotishka Bhattacharjee.
Yeah, is my mic and camera working fine?
Yes, Jyotishka, the stage is yours. All the best.
Good evening to the judges, seniors, fellow debaters, and audience. I'm Jyotishka Bhattacharjee, and today I will speak against the motion on the topic zoos should be banned. Zoos must be there, and the greatest reason is it provides safety to the animals. Popular news outlet The Hindu says, in last 5 years, poachers have killed 22 one-horned rhinos majorly from Kaziranga National Park and Manas Sanctuary in Assam. If they're not safe in national parks, what about normal wildlife? More than 38 million animals from forests of Brazil are poached annually. BBC writes, 3 billion animals were killed or displaced in the bushfires of Australia last year. We cannot provide shelter to every animal, but we can make exceptions for those endangered. The southern white rhinos had to be given special security by several dozens of forest officials in Kenya. Is so much investment of manpower and capital worthwhile? Next, it is the health and survival. The scientific journal from nature.com. It says 84% mammals live longer in zoos than the wilder counterparts, and premature mortality rate is a whopping almost 65% lesser than the animals of the wild. National Geographic says animals born in the captivity will die if suddenly released into the wild. So we cannot just let species vanishing by just closing the zoos and letting all of them out suddenly. In zoos, we can assure specialized care. Unlike circuses, there is medical treatment, food to the animals, as carnivores like tigers are known to eat their own cubs when extremely hungry. Also, we can protect the animals from accidental deaths due to deforestation, which is rapidly happening in most parts of the world. Lastly, other benefits include, Up Council says that the cost of starting a zoo can be as little as $50,000, whereas for the national park, it's more than $100 million. Zoos also acts as a source of employment. As popular news outlet, The Times of India says, only the Ranthambore Tiger Reserve generated more than 23 crore rupees in revenue in 2016 and 17 financial year. So you can just think of how much the total revenue would be from all the zoos. And lastly, scientific research. You can just see that you cannot go around in safari searching for animals and tranquilizing them for carrying out any sort of scientific research while they're readily available in the zoos. You can just mix a bit of sedative in their food and then you can collect any sort of sample for carrying out your scientific research. So these are some of the reasons why I feel that zoos should not be banned. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyotishka. So I open the chat box for the questions. All other speakers can enter the questions. All right, so as we can see, we have two questions in the chat box. I request Monoswini to ask a question, and Jyotishka, after she has completed a question, the timer will start. I once again re-emphasize and request all the participants to keep the questions short and precise, even while writing and even while asking. Thank you very much.
So Jyotishko, here I've heard your points, so these are very good. But my question is, don't you think it's time for searching alternatives for the in situ conservation rather than justifying the ex situ conservation, which drags the animals out of their natural habitat? What is your take on this point?
See, Monosuni, you asked that can we move to in situ conservation? See, I already mentioned that animals in the wild, they are more prone to premature mortality. Also, there are a lot of chances of diseases, and there can be doctors everywhere to take care of animals, but there are specialized care present in ex situ conservation, that's usually the zoos. So yes, there can be alternatives, but at this point of time, if we have to look for endangered species or which species require specialized care, then the best option for us can be the zoos only, which is a part of ex situ conservation.
Thank you, Monoswini. I now request Somadrita to ask a question.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so Jyotishka, I listened to your speech and it was good, but I have a question. We know that zoos are actually an unnatural habitat, and many animals stay together there, which are actually not staying when they are in natural habitat. So there's a reason many diseases are being spread. So what's your opinion on that? Many diseases are spread, as I have mentioned in my question, E. coli infection and many other herbs, etc. So what's your opinion on that?
Yes, Swadhita, as you have told that as the animals are kept in a concise environment, so there is chance of spreading of the diseases, but these diseases are more prone to be treated well than their wilder counterparts. See, usually the diseases spread from floods, droughts, or any other natural calamities affect the animals the most, what I personally feel, except the epidemic parts. So usually the epidemics don't fall on animals in the zoos as such, but when they happen, that's the problem of hygiene of individual zoos. So that's the problem which we can just work on the hygiene part, because animals in the wild also live with their community, with their friends. You know that all lions hunt in packs, all elephants move in packs. So it's not a fact that they don't live together. That's what I wanted to say.
Vaishnavi, you can go ahead and ask a question.
like to ask that captivating animals to generate revenues, how is it just?
See, I want to say that it's not that they are just being captivated for generating revenues. We need resources and capital to keep maintaining those zoos. We need to pay the officials, we need to pay the doctors, we need to pay for the food of those animals. So that's where the revenue part comes from. The revenue, excluding the profits, all the money is used usually for the treatment and better environment for those animals. So yes, the profit part is different, that yes, everyone has setting up something, so they will look for profit, but it's not the only reason for captivating animals.
Yeah, Jyotishka, if you want, you can use an additional of 20 seconds to conclude your answer.
No, Aditya, I think I have made my point.
All right. Thank you, Jyotishka.
Thanks a lot, Aditya.
Yes. So moving ahead, our next speaker will be Ritvik Sinha, that is speaker number 3, who will be speaking for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, Ritvik, and you're visible too. All the best. The stage is yours.
Thank you. A very good evening, honorable members of the jury, my worthy opponents, and their audience. I, Ritvik Sinha, I'm going to present my views in favor of the motion, zoo should be banned. During lockdown owing to COVID-19, when we were asked to stay at home, we felt like being locked up in a cage, and we cursed the situation. But do you ever think of what the animals in zoos go through? We were locked in only for a few months. They spend ages in cages. A life of confinement and profound despondency has become the ultimate reality of zoo animals, depriving them of their natural habitats, needs, and freedom. From psychological disorders to poor health and reduced lifespans, zoo animals are left at the mercy of incompetent managements, unsuitable living conditions, and extreme and unfavorable climates. The imprisonment and isolation animals face, only to be exhibited for humans, have serious implications. They often display neurotic behavior like repetitive pacing, swaying, and bar biting. Moreover, zoos restrict animals' natural tendencies and cause them to be dependent on us humans. Because of this, animals that have lived in zoos can't adapt or even survive if they are released into the wild, as zoo life does not prepare animals for the challenges of life in the wild. Now, supporters of zoos argue that they help to conserve endangered species. The big question is whether threatened and endangered wildlife is even preserved there, or is it just the exotic wild animals kept to attract crowds? The concept of zoos is obsolete and barely serves the purpose of conservation. Supposedly built to educate people about animal welfare, zoos hardly enlighten, rather are a source of cheap showbiz at the cost of animals' miseries, and that itself is enough a reason to show that they are not a solution, but part of the problem. Caging wildlife and exotic animals for mankind by depriving them of their natural social structures is detrimental in the long run. Nonetheless, the collective mindset that considers animals as inferior beings born to serve mankind is what prompts cruelty in the first place, and this thinking needs to be avoided and discouraged if we really care about animals. In a nutshell, zoos should be banned as they are prisons for animals, camouflaging their cruelty with conservation claims. With this, I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ritvik. So the chat box is open for questions. I request everyone to start entering. All right. So as we have our first question from Jyotishka for Ritvik. So Ritvik, Jyotishka will be asking his question, and as soon as he's completed his question, the timer will start. So Jyotishka, you can come ahead and ask a question.
See, many animals are already born in the zoo in their captivity, and we know that they are more tameable and tamed animals. They just act like normal domestic animals. Also, the mortality rate of animals in the zoos is very less. As I told in my part, it's a whopping 65% lesser. People are kept in confined places during their diseases, their old age, or when they are very young. for their own protection, their own safety. So why cannot we do that for animals also, the endangered animals, the sick animals, and the very young animals who are prone to predators, or very old animals who cannot protect themselves?
All right, Jyotishka, you have said that the animals which are kept in the zoos, they behave like domestic animals. Now, like wild animals are wild and domestic animals are domestic. So we just can't compare both of them. And talking about captivating the animals, there are just a few instances in which the animals are unsafe out there, but in zoos they are more likely to get diseases and more likely to suffer from neurotic behaviors, which they usually show, as I have already mentioned in my speech. So it's not at all justified to keep them in confined spaces, and you can't just compare that humans are confined when they have diseases, and animals should be done the same, but because it's not at all justified. In the wild they have a lot of space. You just compare a polar bear space in its natural environment with millions of hectares compared to that of a zoo with just a few meters. So that itself says the thing. So
next question from Agnish. Agnish, you may go ahead.
All right. So my simple question to speaker 3 is: in an event of a habitat destruction, many animals, they do not receive enough food, or they do not get enough shelter to be accommodated anywhere. So do you believe zoos can be a place of shelter in the case of habitat destruction for such animals? And if not zoos, what other alternatives do you have for such an event?
yeah, that's a good question, Agnish. So where natural habitats are destroyed of animals, one simple thing can be done. Like, there are several similar natural habitats of the same animal all over the world. So if not one of them is destroyed, they can be transferred to another place. So zoos are actually not the only solution. There are several other solutions for the same. And it's not always that the animals are fed well in zoos. There are very rare instances where animals are taken good care of in the zoos.
Next, we have speaker 4, Abhigyan, who will be asking his question.
Okay, so a lot of animals like the Galapagos giant turtle, Arabian oryx have been removed from the endangered list due to the efforts of zoos. So how do you think we could have saved them if they were in the wild? Because it's like rather impractical to protect to secure a forest that is over thousands of acres spread out.
Okay, Abhigyan, so you said that how can we save them if they're endangered? But this is something which many supporters of zoos argue, that it helps the number of endangered species rise. But think about it in this way: the endangered animals in the wild are going to have a harder time finding mates if zoos take them out of the wild. So zoos can never be the only solution to the problem of the rising number of endangered species. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Ritvik. Moving on, our next speaker for today, speaker 4, Abhigyan Dandriyal.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, Abhigyan. All the best. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Priya. So a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today is zoos should be banned. My name is Abhigyan Dandriyal and I stand against this motion. Zoos serve as a connect between humans and wild animals. For only a few will ever see wild penguins sledding downhill to sea on their bellies, giant pandas holding bamboo lollipops in China, or tree porcupines in the Canadian Rockies boulder like giant pine cones. By bringing the wildlife closer to us, zoos helps us in knowing more about the animals, which would not be possible if they were only present in the wild. Zoos also help in conserving and increasing the population of endangered animals by providing a safe haven to them, void of any predators and with the availability of proper medical attention if they ever fall sick. In the wild, predators, poachers, and diseases will make sure that their numbers go on decreasing till they are extinct. Conserving and protecting the endangered animals and making sure that others do not fall into this category is the main motive of zoos. Zoos primarily deal with three aspects of conservation: practice, advocacy, and research. Conservation practice includes captive breeding, species reintroduction programs, species survival plans, and the use of zoo revenue for conservation programs in the wild. Conservation advocacy includes public engagement, promoting awareness, fundraising events, and such schemes. Moreover, conservation research is conducted on wildlife biology, population dynamics, animal behavior, their health and welfare, and there are also publications generated by zoos on animal care and captivity, which further helps in protecting an endangered species. The Galapagos giant tortoise, the Arabian oryx, and the golden lion tamarin are only some of the animals that are no longer endangered due to the efforts of zoos. The revenue generated by zoos through visitors as well as patrons is also extremely important in making sure that an endangered species is taken care of properly and does not die out and become extinct. Without the presence of zoos, the awareness and knowledge among the public would be drastically decreased, and we will never have the funds to protect any endangered species. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhigyan. So the chat box is open for questions. So we can see that we have a question from speaker number 3, Ritvik Sinha. So Ritvik, you can switch on your camera, ask your question, and the timer will start after he has finished the question. So
Okay,
you may begin.
yeah, thank you. As Abhigyan mentioned that zoos help conserve endangered species. So of course there are other alternatives. So don't you think people who actually care about protecting endangered species should donate to organizations that safeguard them in their natural habitats?
Yes, I perfectly agree with you. But the fact is that there should be more people who need to care about them. Like, you can't expect someone to care about a thing that they have never seen while living in cities, because in cities obviously there won't be any wildlife. So you need to first bring contact to both the bring into contact the wildlife with the humans, so that we can understand what they need and the help that they require. By seeing them and knowing more about them, it will obviously raise awareness and help people and make people donate for them if they think that it's worth it. Yes and no.
All right. So the next question is from speaker number 11, Raj Singh. Raj, you may start a question, and once he's ended, the timer will start again.
Yes. My question is that, do you think that bringing endangered species far from their natural environment is justified? Because zoos which are established in towns, are having animals or endangered species brought far away from different countries, right? So I think that those zoos can rather be established there itself, rather bringing those endangered species from their natural environment, which is resulting in most of the deaths, rather than safeguarding of those endangered species.
First of all, no, they are not ending dead, rather than rather than being saved, as there are a lot of species that have been removed from the endangered species due to being bred in zoos and such. Secondly, yes, I believe that it's justified, because it can result in the end of the species if due to diseases, poachers, predators, if they are not protected properly. And it's not really possible for us to secure a whole forest just for some animals, because poachers can really enter from any place, or the animals can die through diseases.
Next question will be from speaker number 8, Sayantani Datta.
Yeah, so you said mostly about that zoos help in protecting the endangered species, but the fact is that the majority of species living in the kept in the zoos are not endangered, but they are still kept under captivity. So what are your views on this?
Yeah, as we need to first of all spread awareness about all the animals and their like behaviors and how they live in the we need to spread awareness about the animals amongst people so that they can actually know more about them, and we can also research on some specimens like Jyotishka mentioned. So, but so we do need the non-endangered species also to spread awareness as well as protect them if needed, if in future they become endangered or something.
Thank you, Abhigyan. Moving ahead. So our next speaker for today is speaker number 5, Sumadrita Haldar.
Yeah, am I audible and visible?
Yes, so all the best. The stage is yours.
Hypocrisy has its height. We human are crossing it overnight. It's high time we should change our mind, otherwise we have to face the plight. A very warm good evening to one and all present here. Myself, Sumadrita Haldar, is going to present my views on the favor of the motion that yes, zoos should be banned. Freedom is nothing but the ability to live as we want, and we humans are taking it from the animals by putting them in zoos. For some, this can be a source of income. For some, they can be a source of entertainment. But for animal, zoos are just basically prison camouflaged with conservational claim. Now, talking about facts, Britain Welfare Council of 1965 have developed 5 freedom rights, and which are actually internationally accepted. And you might be surprised to know that among the 5 freedom rights, four rights are actually being violated by the zoo authority. And these rights are freedom to express normal behavior, freedom of fear, freedom from pain, and freedom from discomfort. Now, apart from this, zoos are also too small for many animals. Like according to the recent research, polar bear get less than 1 million space required, and the tigers and lion get 18 times less space which are actually required by them. This has led to their less life expectancy, as 40% of the lion cub die before the 1 month of the age, and according to the statistics, elephant in the wildlife live more than 3 times as compared to zoo. Now, baby animal bring in visitors and money, but this incentive to breed new animals had lead to overpopulation. And when they can't control, zoo authority can't control these overpopulated animals, they sold it not only to other zoos but also to circuses and hunting facilities. And you might be surprised to know that some zoos simply kill these surplus animals. So I think my opposition, who are actually saying their views against the motion, are supporting this heinous crime of killing animals. Now, apart from this, the vast majority of the captive breeding program do not release animal back to wildlife. They are always being a part of trade. For example, Asian elephant was born in zoo but later was rescued from an abusive circus trainer. Not only this, even if they are released to the wildlife, they can't live because they are not habituated with the challenges of the wildlife and they die due to starvation. Apart from this, animals sometimes escape from their zoos because they want to live in a free space, and when they try to escape, they are being shot dead. Apart from them, there was a classic example of a 17-year-old gorilla was shot dead in 2016 when a toddler accidentally fell into his enclosure. So many times people don't see the warning sign in the zoos and they come too closer, and this lead to a major mishappening which should not be taken place and which will not taken place if zoos are banned. Now, apart from all this, we also know that zoos are a condition. So people like animals living in zoos is actually in an artificial condition, and therefore so that I just want to conclude that with this, I just want to say that even diseases also spread in zoos because many animals don't live naturally and they have to live there. Like the African animal get herbs from the Asian elephant in US zoo. So with this point, I just want to say that yes, I strongly believe that zoos should be banned. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumadrita. I open the chat box for questions.
Sumadrita, take a breath. Relax.
All right, so now as we can see that we have questions, I request Jyotishka to ask his question. So Madhrita, after Jyotishka has finished his question, the timer will start.
So Madhrita, you mentioned that 4 out of 5 laws for animals kept in the zoo are being means not up to the mark, they are being followed. So I just want to ask that if there are breach of rules, breach of laws, do we need to close down an institution completely? If there are breach of laws in our college by either the faculty or either by students, should we close our college? If there are breach of laws by politicians, so should we close the parliament? So just closing a institution just because people are not following the protocols for that is not a solution. So we can just implement stricter laws, stricter protocols. Then why do you say that just because laws are not being followed, we need to close the zoos down?
So first of all, as you have said that these laws are being like we can make strong laws, but you have to understand the depth of the problem. The problem, as I mentioned, that discomfort. Discomfort is because of the less spaces, and you as I have mentioned in my speech, the polar bear need like they need 100 they walk 100 kilometer of like they walk 100 kilometer in their Arctic, in their original places. So will you be able to give this much amount of space in a zoo? I think you will not be able to do. And apart from this, I have said that we can't stop. I am not saying that we should stop protecting animals. We have other alternative, like we have wildlife sanctuaries, we have safaris. As my fellow Monoshini has told, that we have a conservational biodiversity reserve. So we can convert our zoos to wildlife sanctuaries. There animals will be also safe. They will get the proper area, and people can also study. Like they can also have the connection. So this is I want to say, because other problem, like I have said that like the animal have the fear, like fear, they are not like they are injury. It is true, because in zoo they are being trained, they are being traumatized. So and like if talking about fear, since they are being caged, they have to be traumatized. They see many trainers actually train them, and during the process of training it is very obvious they like ill treat the animals, because we humans are selfish and we always have like a superior
please
quality.
conclude your answer. Please conclude your answer.
Yeah. So I just want to say that it is not possible. That's why I'm saying we have to ban it. Thank you.
All right. Next question will be from speaker 4, Abhigyan. Please try to be concise with the questions as well as the answers. Thank you.
Yeah. So you mentioned 5 freedoms. So there is also the freedom from pain, injury, or disease by prevention or rapid diagnosis and treatment. So how do you give animals this freedom, especially endangered ones, without medical facilities in the zoos, especially animals like the Galapagos giant tortoise? Sorry.
Can you repeat, please? I'm unable to hear.
Yeah. So the freedom by prevention or rapid diagnosis and treatment. It is also one of the five freedoms you mentioned. So how do you give animals, especially the endangered ones, this freedom without medical facilities in the zoos, as animals like the giant Galapagos tortoise? In case of tortoise, only less than 5 out of 100 offspring actually survive in the wild. So what's your take on this?
As I've already told, we have wildlife sanctuaries, we can have biodiversity reserves, so we can, if we want, we can protect them. But I don't think zoo is the correct, like, and what you have said, like, about the endangered species, I want to say you that most of the animals in zoo are not endangered. They are actually, the truth, the hidden or the dark truth is that they are being captured from the wild and they are used as a source of entertainment. Only few animals are endangered.
All right. I request to the judges, like, will we be allowed to take another question as the 2 minutes for rebuttal are over?
I think since Madhrita had spoken for 3 minutes in her debate and 2 minutes here for rebuttal, I don't think it would be justified to take another question.
Okay, Didi.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Samadrita. Moving on. The next speaker for today will be Isha Haldar, speaker number 6.
Good evening, everyone. Aditya, can you please confirm if I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you're audible and visible. All the best. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So good evening to one and all present here. So today the topic for the debate is zoos should be banned, and I would like to speak against the motion. So going by the definition that was provided by the Oxford, the definition of zoo goes like, it's an establishment which maintains a collection of wild animals, typically in a park or a garden, for study, conservation, or display to public. Here it is evident that the primary aim behind establishment of zoos is study or conservation, and tertiary aim is display to the public. The essence of human existence lies in its potential to discover facts and generate theories enveloping the past, present, and future of this planet. For this, extensive study and research is essential, for which closed enclosures where these studies can be conducted are very essential. Also, ex situ conservation was started with the sole objective to contribute towards the sustainability of species that otherwise risk their survival in their natural habitats. Of course, I would like to dispute on animals being kept in captive, because I too believe that each living soul deserves freedom of their life. But when it comes to the holistic balance of the ecosystem and conservation, we need to understand that some species do need extensive care in order to sustain their existence. And this is where zoos and other ex situ conservation sites come into picture. Now, I would like to put light on some rules that have been that have been framed by the, in 1987, the Indian government, it banned the exploitation of animals through circuses or any other such private institution. Also, when we speak of international laws, we have the Lacey Act and the AWA Act, which looks into such matters. Also, I would like to speak against a point that my fellow opponent Ritwik Sinha proposed in his speech, and that is, once the animals they get into zoos, they have no way out. Regarding that, I would like to say that in 1962, the fledgling Phoenix Zoo, it joined with the Fauna Preservation Society, and it protected the Arabian oryx. And that is how, and ultimately they reintroduced it back to the wild. So we cannot say that once the animals are put into zoos, they are there forever, because we have seen examples regarding that. Also, there have been concerns about brutality showed by humans on animals and their confinement causing various problems. And there are, as I've already spoken about, all such ill measures are banned by competent authorities. We've also seen zoos like the we have also seen zoos like that in the Philadelphia Zoo, which was the first zoo in US, and it continues to operate as one of the biggest scientific and cultural centers today. And also the Monterey Zoo at Monterey, California, is dedicated to one species or set of species. So here I would like to say that we have seen zoos like such which have revived extinct animals and more. Some private zoos don't follow safety standards and causes us to have a bad impression on the entire system. So I'm not focusing on those private zoos. I'm speaking about those zoos that maintain all these protocols that are set up by the government and other competent authorities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isha. The chat box is now open for questions. All right, so our first question for Isha will be from Monoswini, speaker number 1. Isha, Monoswini will ask a question, and after she's finished, the timer will start.
Yes, thanks. So my question is, many of people are debating about that the zoos work for the conservation of the endangered species. But my point is that for the endangered species, there are special programs launched by the government, like Project Tiger, Project Rhinoceros, and etc., where these species are conserved in their own natural habitats. There are certain like Kaziranga zone, Sundarban zone, etc., etc., for the conservation of tigers or such animals, such endangered species in their natural habitat itself. So how can you justify zoos that no, they protect endangered, but actually if we see that zoos are not essential for the conservation of endangered species. So what's your take on that?
Yeah. So I would like to say that I had already mentioned earlier in another person's rebuttal.
Amisha, please switch on your mic. I think you went mute.
Okay. Am I audible now? I hope I am. Yeah,
yes.
Okay. So, as I had already mentioned in another my opponent's rebuttal round, that the giant white rhino, it went extinct in its natural habitat. So we cannot guarantee that putting animals in their natural enclosures would guarantee their survival, because we have seen examples of animals that have gone extinct in their natural habitat itself, and because we weren't much successful in regulating the poacher activities. Also, I believe that these zoos are better off as they provide better and extensive care, because we can take the example of we are aware that giant pandas, they often give birth in pairs, okay, but the survival rate of twin panda is very less because the mother cannot support both the babies due to the diet. However, we have seen that survival rates have shot up in recent years under special guidance of human, which would have been impossible in the wild. So yeah, that is about it.
The next question is from speaker number 11, Raj Singh.
Yes, my question is that can you elaborate more that how zoos are used for educational purposes? Because these days many lives are put at risk by the children when they are visiting the zoos for educational purpose.
So in my speech, fellow speaker, I haven't mentioned the word education. I have mentioned the word study, which means we carry out research on animals and to provide better conditions for them to survive endangered species. Also, we carry out research to and incorporating biotechnology services in order to breed more variants that would sustain the entire biodiversity that we have on Earth today. So I never mentioned it was as education, I mentioned it as study.
Right. Thank you very much, Isha. I think we have approached the end of our time, so we won't be taking any more questions. However, the speakers' questions will be entertained by the judges.
Thank you so
Moving
much.
on. Our next speaker for today is Shrenu Suman, that is speaker number 7.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible as well as visible. All the best.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Thank you, Aditya. Like Abraham Lincoln, I also believe those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. Respected jury members and everyone present here, I, Shrenu Suman, here to present the motion of the topic, zoos should be banned. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to throw light on the fact that back in history, Roman Emperor Augustus used to have 3,500 wild animals in his empire just to flex his power in front of other kings. But the Roman Empire fell. And for me, it seems no surprise that the largest amphitheater made in the entire world, Colosseum, was inaugurated by killing 5,000 animals because the zoos these days serve the same purpose. According to World Association of Zoos and Aquarium, 1,200 zoos in 78 countries are involved in animal abuse and animal misconduct. The so-called surplus animals in zoos are often killed even if they are healthy. According to In Defense of Animals, up to 5,000 zoo animals are killed each year, mind you, only in Europe. China, for an example, it has 5,000 captive tigers which they use for traditional medicine. In late 2012, another safari park was shamed as West Midlands Safari Park was exposed for providing white lion cubs to a notorious circus animal trainer who sent them in a traveling circus in Japan. People talk about education that we get from the zoo. Contradicting to this fact, I want to highlight some of the following points. A Freedom for Animal study of UK found that 41% of the animals on display had no signs identifying their species, the most basic of any information. A US study found no compelling evidence for the claim that zoos and aquariums promote any attitude change, education, or any interest in the conservation of the animals to the visitors. I would ask you all, how would you have felt when you are sentenced life imprisonment for having some extraordinary quality and all the other creatures of the earth would come and see you just for fun and entertainment? First of all, we should understand what does the word wild means. The word wild means the extreme behavior. So how can we justify that captivity gonna serve both being mentally fit and physically healthy for the animals. I firmly believe that animals should have a right to their own families, right to their own freedom, and right to their own life, and they should be considered as the citizen of this earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shrenu. I open the chat box for further questions. All right. So as we can see, our first question is from speaker 6, Isha Haldar. Shrenu, Isha will ask a question. After she's done, the timer will begin. So Isha, you may proceed.
Yeah. So Shrenu, I would like to ask that the problem of surplus animals that you had mentioned in your speech, it has already been tackled with the help of international laws that have been governed, and any zoo that follows those protocols, they wouldn't violate these laws. So how would you justify that banning zoos would be a solution to this?
Okay, Isha, I would like to answer this question. First of all, I want to tell you that we consider good zoos like an iceberg. We just look at the tip of the iceberg. We don't know what is going underneath. I want to highlight that all the international laws that has been taken to tackle these problems are not implemented to each and every zoo of the entire world. For an example, the Patna Zoo that I have in my state does not have any of these rules and regulations that are conducting in a proper manner. So this is my take on this question of yours.
Requesting other participants to please enter the questions. Yeah, so Jyotishka, you may go ahead and ask a question.
I want to ask you that, as you mentioned, a lot of zoos mistreat animals. They don't treat them well, and you told them based on nations or continents. So I just want to ask you that if we cannot just let the animals in the wild for many reasons, especially they're being endangered. So if they are not treated well in the zoos, how can you expect that government or whatever organization will make good policies or amendments for their good treatment in other places?
For treating the endangered species, we have wildlife sanctuaries, we have national parks that are taking care of the animals who are endangered. And you are talking about the good cares that are being taken in the zoo. I want to show you a fact that 40% of the lion cubs die before 1 month of the age, while in the wild, 30% of the cubs are thought to die after the 6th month, and only 1/3 of the total dying is from the predation. So I want to highlight that the illegal trading and all those going in the zoo are causing much more damage to the endangered species and wild animals than when we release them in the wild. Thank you.
Next question from Sayantani Datta.
Yeah. So people won't protect what they don't love, and they can't love something which they don't know. So how do you think people would contribute to conservation efforts if they don't feel a connection with them, since they haven't witnessed them with their own eyes?
Okay, that's all the question? Okay. I want to say that it is really not justified to get educated and have some connection with an animal by captivating him for his entire life for something he has not done. And for getting education and information about the animal, we have National Geographic channels which educate us. We have different kind of videos, studies, and all the statistics that we have. We can get educated by them only. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrenu. So we would like to conclude with Shrenu, as the 3 questions for Shrenu have been completed. Moving ahead.
Thank you, Aditya.
So our next speaker for today is Sayantani Datta, who is speaker number 8.
Good evening. Good evening to all my dear judges and my fellow panelists. I would be speaking against the motion. Should zoos be banned? The modern zoo acts as a place for the preservation of endangered species, a safe house for rescued animals protected from those with malicious intent, and a breeding ground for those that can be safely kept in captivity to help spread a sense of wonder about the natural world to those who would not have a chance to see anything more interesting than a local Labrador. Also, I for one would rather have a northern white rhino live in a local zoo than cease to exist entirely. Furthermore, where would someone brought up in a city get to see a gorilla, a tiger, or even a meerkat? While a safari in the plains may be preferable, the vast majority will never be able to afford such an exotic holiday. Animal experts may bemoan our anthropomorphizing the natural world, but it is important to acknowledge the importance of this in helping to protect species that may otherwise be lost to us. One need not only look at the relative difficulties of building a campaign to protect the rights of battery hens, still providing most of our eggs, and the polar bear. One is a bloodthirsty killer and the other a harmless hen. Yet the public relates more to that cuddly white oversized bear. Also, letting children get up close with a real-life Balu or King Louis would do as much to foster a sense of conservationism as any Rudyard Kipling story. Therefore, it provides people, especially children, with an opportunity to see these remarkable animals up close. People won't protect what they don't love, and they can't love what they don't know. No matter how closely programs like BBC Earth depicts animals, nothing will match the bond of seeing them in real life. To ignore the part zoos have to play here would be dishonest, and to pretend that there is any practical source of funds to support this vital work is disingenuous. When government and taxation won't even pay up to support the poorest in the society, it seems unlikely that they'll fork out for the protection of endangered species like pink-headed duck and black bucks. So I would urge you to support zoos, improve the bad ones, don't tar them all with the same brush, and remember that the focus should be on protecting natural habitats, and zoos can help achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayantani. We are open for questions in the chat box. All right, so our first question will be from speaker number 3, Ritvik Sinha. Sayantani, as soon as Ritvik finishes his question, the timer on the clock will start.
Okay, so Shantani, as you mentioned that zoos help conserve endangered species, but a few years back there was this world famous panda breeding program, and it was actually very costly and unsuccessful. So how do you think zoos help conserve endangered species? And one more thing, you mentioned that people can learn more by visiting zoos. They get educated, but don't you think they can also go to wildlife sanctuaries or national parks for the same thing? And not only that, there are various other sources. With the advancement of technology, you can get access to a lot of information. So what's your take on it?
Okay, so first of all, I mentioned in my speech that visiting wildlife sanctuaries is much more costlier than visiting zoos. It on an average, they charge around 2,000 to more, sometimes even more than that per person to visit a wildlife sanctuary, and so it's not economical for everyone. Plus, they help in breeding because the money they collect from the people who visit these zoos are used for their conservation itself. to pay their staff, to pay the veterinary services, to pay other trained staff to protect and ensure that these animals are safe.
All right. Next question is from speaker number 1, Monoswini.
Yes, thanks. So this question is not only to speaker it, but those who think that zoos are necessary and zoos should not be banned. So think on an average day, if a person goes and visits zoo, his work is very simple. He goes, he visits, and then he comes back. But think of an animal on the zoo who has to endure all the tantrums and all the noises on any average day, and think of what he has to undergo. I mean, that tantrums, and people tease the animals in the zoo. I mean, in most of the cases, it has been witnessed by many of us that, you know, people go and they tease the animals in the zoo like they do. Hey, you can understand what they do. So think from an animal's perspective, don't you think that zoos are really very much inhuman?
First of all, there are many laws being formulated which have been put in practice, that feeding the animals, coming in contact with their too close to their cages is actually punishable, and they can be fined. If zoos are not implementing it on their individual level, that is their stand. And I won't say that all the zoos are the same. Some do adhere to these laws and strictly follow them.
All right. Our next question will be from Sumadrita Halda, speaker number 5. In addition, Sayantini, you will get another 20 seconds to sum up your answer.
Hello. So there is a safari zoo in Bangkok where like orangutans are forced to click pics by like giving various poses or like putting their hand in the shoulder of humans or doing mischievous activities. Like they are trained for that, and humans enjoy this. And they are not doing it like for one day. Like humans are enjoying it for one day. They have to do it 24/7. So what are your views? Like, don't you feel these zoos are like exactly same as circuses, and they are like violating the animal rights?
First of all, I would like to point out the fact that you mentioned a safari and not a zoo. Those are two different things.
1 minute. I know I can't like cross question, but this is the name of the zoo. But actually, it is a zoo, like Safari Wild. It's the name of it.
So, if it's a zoo, then animals would be in a cage, and if they are in a cage, they aren't. How would they put their hands on the visitors and take pictures with them if they are inside a zoo? Means it is a safari. So those are two different things we are talking about here.
All right. Thank you, Sayantini. Moving on. Next up is speaker number 9, Vaishnavi Malviya, for the motion.
Robert Brault said, and I quote, "The only creature on earth whose natural habitat is a zoo is the zookeeper." A very pleasant morning, a very pleasant evening to all the respected judges, my fellow competitors, and all the attendees. I, Vaishnavi Malviya, stand firmly in favor of the motion zoos should be banned. We all saw what happened to our mental health during lockdown. It has been more than a year and we are desperate to move out and live our life. Why don't we think of the animals the same way? It has been reported that animals locked up in the zoo suffer severely from depression. The life which the animals get in the zoo is a dejected and lonely life. For us, it can be a source of entertainment and for some, a source for income. But from the animal's perspective, it is no less than a life of a prisoner in a confined space, with not much to do away from home. Zoos are indeed a prison for those who never even committed a crime. The natural behavior of animals is hampered in a zoo. The way they hunt, rummage, or swim in the rivers and live independently in the forests. It has also been observed time and again that if an animal happens to be relocated to a forest, it cannot survive for long, and that too independently, because they don't develop proper animal traits as those found in the animals of the forest. Many die prematurely because of bad diet, insufficient exercise, and poor living conditions. In zoos, animals are confined to small spaces and they cannot adapt to artificial environment. As an example, polar bears get only about 10 meters of space in the zoo to roam, whereas in their natural environment they walk hundreds of kilometers. Some animals in zoos are dying before they should. Like 40% of lion cubs die before 1 month of age. In Africa, elephants in the wild live longer than those in the zoo. Despite zoos claiming that they are for educational purposes, most people come for mere entertainment. And if we take researchers into account, animal behavior cannot be studied as they do not possess natural traits in a zoo. Animals should be living in their natural habitat and not in a display case for people to see only for entertainment. In my opinion, wildlife sanctuaries and safaris are a far better option to observe the activities of animals as they are provided with their natural habitat and not caged. It is unethical to confine them to cages. I would conclude with the words of Mehmet Murad Ildan. In zoos, along with the animals, the humanity of man is also present. No cage is humane. Let the wild be in the wild. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. The chat box is now open for questions. So as we can see, the first question will be from speaker number 10, Varanasi Radhika Shreya. Vaishnavi, as soon as Radhika is done with her question, the timer will start.
So, do you think the existing laws that are there can be modified in order to protect the animals in a better way, such as punishing people who violate the laws, or other reforms would help in making zoos a better place?
I don't think any law, any refinement in any law can give back their freedom and their wild traits to the animals.
Next question will be from speaker number 12, Agnish Dasgupta.
Okay, so my question to speaker 9 would be, if you believe that zoos should be banned in this moment, so all the animals which are presently kept in a zoo, how would you reaccommodate those animals? And if you say wildlife sanctuaries, as you have said, if they're reintroduced to the wild, they'll soon won't be able to cope in the wild. So what are your suggestions on that?
In my opinion, there should be, if we create a wildlife sanctuary specifically for the animals kept in the zoos presently, then I don't think it would hamper, like it would cause any insecurity to the animals from the wild animals.
Next question will be from speaker number 2, Jyotishka.
All right. I want to ask you that this popular photograph comparison of 10 years challenge everyone has seen, that how a polar bear was 10 years ago a very healthy polar bear in millions of hectares of land, and today it is starving and without land. So recreating the natural habitat costs many millions or even billions of dollars, and as I've said, in few tens of thousands of dollars we can create a zoo to recreate that type of environment. Then why zoo is not a good option for the time being? Because the natural habitats what we have destroyed cannot be recreated in a fortnight.
I agree with you that wildlife sanctuaries cannot be created specially for animals of the Arctic, animals like polar bear. So yes, we can definitely have a space specifically for those, but not for the public entertainment. They should not be open to the public. For an entertainment purpose. They should be specifically created so that polar bears can be survived.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. I think we have some more questions, but I think, would not have the time to take all questions. So moving on, The next participant is speaker number 10, Varanasi Radhika Shreya. All the best. The stage is yours.
Am I audible and visible?
Well, you're audible, but I think you're not visible to me.
Yeah, Aditya, she is visible. She is visible.
Okay. All right. All the best. Sorry for the inconvenience.
People forget the good that zoos do. If it weren't for zoos, we would have so many species that would be extinct today. Betty White. Good evening to one and all present here. Today, me, V. Radhika Shreya, would like to speak against the topic zoos should be banned. In the past few years, there was a lot of controversy going about whether zoos should be banned or not. Zoos should not be banned as they play a major role in preventing the extinction of some species and in the protection of animals. Citing an example, in 1962, a campaign to catch 3 of the last living Arabic oryx served to begin a breeding project at the Phoenix Zoo in Arizona. Some associations claim that zoos should be banned because they have a negative impact on the animals. They reject the idea that zoos are made to preserve some species from extinction. Their argument is that if zoos were really made for the solely purpose that species in the zoos should not be kept for public viewing. But I would like to rescind this point. Zoos are a dynamic educational source that enhance our community. Zoos raise awareness about the geopardize species and the significance of preservation. Zoos may help us to comprehend animals. They offer a good tool for our societies by lodging and dealing with creatures that may have been in peril at one point in their life. Usually, people come to zoos and they are taught about the conservation of endangered species. This motivates people to do something either by donating money or by volunteering. Zoos provide protection for animals. Some hunters may kill animals in the wild for their skin so they can sell it as well. In a zoo, this wouldn't be the case. Another reason is that zoos shouldn't be banned. Animals are really looked after in the zoo. If an animal gets sick in the wild nature, there's no one to treat it. But in case of a zoo, highly qualified vets will be available to deal with this situation. Zoo trainers are trained well to look after animals and they are trained to keep them happy. They make sure that the animals are kept in a similar habitat to the natural one. I would like to support my points by stating certain norms under the Section 38H of the Central Zoo Authority of India. The primary objective of a zoo is about conservation of wildlife, and no zoo shall allow any activity that is not consistent with the well-being of animals. No zoo shall allow any animal to be subjected to the cruelties prohibited under the Prevention of Cruelty of Animals Act. Hence, I would like to conclude by saying that if the above rules are well executed and people who violate rules are given appropriate punishments, then it would be great for the environment due to the facilities they provide, and it would be a good source of knowledge expansion for the young generations. Thank you.
All right, the chat box is open for questions. So we can see that speaker 5 has written her question first. So Radhika, she'll be asking you the question, and as soon as she's done with the question, the timer will begin. Speaker 5, you may begin.
So, what are your views on the killing of the surplus animal due to overpopulation and about the illegal trade of animals?
Okay, so as I said in my conclusion point, that if the rules are well executed and people who violate the rules are given appropriate punishments, zoos would prove to be a great source. So there's an act which says Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of Wildlife, Flora and Fauna. So this regulates the illegal movement and trade of certain species. So if this is followed properly, I guess it would be a better option for the people.
Next up is speaker number 7, Shrenu Suman.
Hello Radhika, I want to ask, how can preventing some extinct animals be justifiable for captivating the entire wildlife?
As I said, there's this law under Central Zoo Authority of India which says only 25% of the total area should be built up. That is the concrete parts of the zoo, such as administrative buildings, etc. So if
and if animals are kept under in a zoo, there'll be highly qualified veterinarians to help them cope up in various situations. So I guess it answers the question.
Next question will be by speaker number 11, Raj Singh.
Yes, my question is that trainers are trained to deal with animals, but many accidents have occurred worldwide where trainers were trying to feed and they died. So what is your views on that?
Yeah, I agree to your point, but I would like to say for that, I feel there should be highly qualified veterinarians who would know how to understand the psychology or how animals might act. And I feel certain facilities should be provided to the trainers as well.
Thank you, Radhika. Moving ahead. So next up is speaker number 11, Raj Singh, for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, you may begin.
Yes. So this is Raj Singh, and I am speaking for the motion that Jew should be banned. Now, freedom is the basic need of all living animals. We need freedom. We can't even spend a day without having freedom. So animals also need that. When in zoos animals are captivated, they are denied of various types of freedoms, like freedom of fear, hunger, or freedom from any type of health. Now we want that these animals, they should have the proper space to walk around. Many zoos are lacking in space. They don't have proper spaces, and these animals, they are brought from far away, from foreign countries. They are brought from their natural environment, and then they are kept in the zoos. We know that like penguins and polar bears, they require an extremely freezing climate to live in. But what they are provided with a hot, warmer climates. Now, I would like to state that most of the zoos and the zoo owner, they are providing a single type of meal every day. They are providing single type of meals every day to the animals, but they also need varieties just like us. So we need to provide them with the variety of dishes as well. Now, according to the government release crores of funds, but they are not getting utilized. Many zoos, they are utilizing a very less amount, and because of which most of the animals are dying. Like from the recent report of last 2.5 years, in Delhi, more than 420 animals, they died just because of the lack of proper medical facilities. Then many accidents have occurred in zoo, right, where humans have died or the trainers and workers have died just because of the lack of proper management or lack of fencing. So all these can be prevented if zoos are banned completely, right? So according to me, zoos should be completely banned because they are not only harmful for the animals, but they are also harmful for the human beings as well. Because we cannot use animals for the enjoyment purpose by keeping them behind the prison. So according to me, zoos should be completely banned. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. The chat box is now open for questions. So our first question, as you can see, is from speaker number 12, Agnish Dasgupta. Raj, as soon as Agnish has completed his question, the timer on the clock will start. Agnish, you can move ahead.
So my question to speaker 11 is, you mentioned about the freedom of animals from fear and hunger. So could you elaborate on that? And don't you think if, for example, an animal is kept in a zoo, and again, if he is reintroduced to the wild, he will have a fear from predators per se, or a fear to whether he'll get proper meals in time or not. But being in a zoo, he won't have any fears from any predators attacking that particular animal. So could you elaborate on this point?
Yeah, sure. So according to me, the freedom from fear is actually the fear from the human beings who are capturing the images, who are looking, staring at them with different viewpoints, right? They are throwing at many zoos. These accidents happen. They throw stones at the animals. They torture them. The trainers as well as the workers are torturing the animals there. So that is what that is what I am dealing. That is freedom from fear. And hunger is basically that the quality of food which is given to them, and most of the time there is no proper authority in most of the countries for animals to check whether they are getting food on time or not, whether the meal is getting served or not. But if they are on their own, like if they are in the forest, they can search for their meals and they can have meals of their own choices with variety of dishes they can have, right? So that is that they are completely independent. Now they are being dependent on the human beings for meals, and that's what freedom from hunger, I mean. Over.
Next question is from speaker number 8, Sayantani Datta.
Yeah, so my question is that many people use zoos for educational trips to learn new things. What are your views on this if zoos are banned?
Yes. So if zoos are banned, actually what educational trips are, actually most of the zoos, they don't have proper educational facilities. They are lacking in most of the educational, you can say there is no proper studies which is being provided. They are just being used for amusement purpose. So according to me, the educational trips is just like a amusement trip, and it is not more like an educational part. So according to me, rather than that trip, we can have more detailed knowledge of those animals from the books or from the different, we have discoveries and channels which can teach us.
All right, we'll take one final question from speaker number 6, Isha Haldar. I would like to add that Raj, you'll get an additional of 20 seconds to conclude your answer.
Yeah. So listening to your speech about the freedom. Now, I would like to ask that how can we otherwise contribute towards safeguarding the biodiversity? Because if animals are in the wild and they don't get proper food, and because of the loss of their habitat, they would anyway die of hunger. But if they are kept in extensive care units, and if they are preserved, if they are conserved in ex situ sites, then they would get special care. So what do you have to say on this? Like, isn't their survival more important than them just being wiped out from the planet?
Yeah, so that is what I was telling, that we, according to our point of view, we are thinking like that the animals could survive more. But if we think from their eyes, if we think from their point of views, they are facing the agony, being captivated in a small cage and not getting proper, you can say, proper space to move around. So that's what I say, that we can have sanctuaries, and as mentioned by most of the here participants, that we can have wildlife sanctuaries, we can have different biodiversity parks, so which can definitely protect. Yeah, over.
Thank you, Raj. So moving on, I would like to call upon our last participant for the day, Speaker 12, Agnish Dasgupta, against the motion. Agnish, the stage is yours. All the best. Yes.
All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I, Agnish Dasgupta, feel honored to have given the opportunity to speak against the topic zoo should be banned. After listening to my fellow speakers, I feel there is a misconception regarding zoos. While early zoos concentrated on displaying as many unusual creatures as possible, often in small, cramped conditions, the focus of most modern zoos or zoological parks is conservation and education. The modern zoo should act as a place for the preservation of endangered species and educate people about them. By bringing people and animals together, zoos educate the public and foster an appreciation of the other species. People who cannot afford to go to a safari can visit a zoo and watch the animals up close. Now, my argument here is there is a purpose for zoos to exist. And I would request my fellow speakers to consider the point that I'm trying to emphasize here. Zoos save endangered species by bringing them into a safe environment where they are protected from poachers, habitat loss, starvations, and predators. Zoos should be kept in the highest standard of proper functioning. Many zoos have breeding programs for endangered species. Zoos can take at-risk animals, breed them in captivity, and then reintroduce them back into the wild. What if the dodos, instead of killing them off, if we would have safely kept them in a zoo, allowed them to propagate, and finally slowly reintroduce them to the wild? Maybe it would have survived till the 21st century and not become extinct. There can be numerous examples of this. Animals in zoos have a less mortality rate as compared to their wild counterparts. Zoos also contribute to scientific research. Zoo is short for zoological park, and zoology is a scientific study of animal biology and behavior, which is very much encouraged in zoos. As scientists from all over the world come to zoos and study these animals. As various problems have been highlighted by my fellow speakers, let's talk now about the solutions to them. Zoos have continued to exist, and it's not banned anywhere in the world. So as another speaker said that there needs to be an alternative, and zoos have low standards of care. Therefore, the best way, I believe, to move forward is to ensure that zoo conditions are the best possible for the animals that live in captivity, and that individuals who violate animal care, health, and safety sanctions are not only they should be punished, and they should not be able to access any future animals in their own zoos. Reputed zoos, which are accredited by organizations such as the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, undergo strict evaluation by recognized experts to ensure the highest standards of animal management. So modern zoos, I believe, should emulate the natural environment as much as possible to accommodate these animals. With this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnish. The chat box is open for questions. So the first question is from speaker 3, Ritvik Sinha. Agnish, after Ritvik finishes his question, the timer will start.
So as Agnish mentioned that in zoos there are several breeding programs, but then don't you think maintaining the diversity of species within captive breeding facilities is a challenge?
Okay, so I did not really get your questions. Like the diversity of species in a zoo. Could you elaborate it more?
Yeah, I mean, like when like the breeding programs which usually focus on just one or two species, but how do you think a diverse number of species can be accommodated in the same zoo?
Well, okay.
Like, won't it be a challenge?
No, I guess the accommodation of the zoos can be enhanced. There can be more facilities brought in to accommodate more species. So no, it depends on how the zoo facility is already available and if they can expand.
All right. Next question is from speaker number 5, Somadrita Haldar.
Yeah, so as you have mentioned that we can like reintroduce the wild animals again into the wildlife. So I want to say case there was a rare animals which are released into wild in the but they died due to starvation even after the area was full of their prey animals. So basically they don't know how to capture their prey, how to hunt. So they eventually die due to starvation. So what's the point of I mean like saving them and like reintroducing them in the wild even if they can't like survive?
Well, if the question is what's the point in saving animals and rare species, then I should say
no. I said what's the point what's point if they can't survive in the wild?
Right, I got your question. So reintroduction is a process which should be considered and looked upon closely by expert authorities in the zoo facility, by scientists and zoologists. So a proper consideration should be there before such a thing is been done. And my example I took of dodo, which was which got extinct. So reintroduction is a possibility, but not all animals can be introduced, of course.
Next question is from speaker number 7, Shrenu Suman.
Yeah, Agnish, I want to ask, according to the government study in UK, 54% of elephants and 40% of lions, they had a behavior problem, and they also lack the wild character. So what is your take on that? And you mentioned especially about the modern zoos. Let me tell you that UK has so many zoos that are properly regulated, and they are channeled very well.
All right, I appreciate the examples you have given of modern zoos. So the answer to your question is like if could you repeat your question, Shenu?
Yeah, am I allowed, judges?
Yes, Shrenu, you'll be allowed.
Okay. So Agnish, my question is, according to the recent studies of government-funded studies of UK, 54% of the elephants and 40% of the lions had behavior problem, and they also lacked the wild character. So what is your take on that?
All right, thank you for repeating your question. Yeah, so now we are talking about the behavior problems, right? So and there are animal psychologists are of course there in the zoo for the proper behavior. If there are some behavioral changes in the animals, then they can spot those changes and you take necessary steps. But of course it's not possible to completely emulate the wildlife feeling of jungles and wildlife sanctuaries. So we should try our best to emulate that in a zoo. That is what I'm proposing.
Thank you, Agnish. And with this, we've come to the end of all the participants. Well, I truly believe it was a wonderful round of debating on a wonderful evening. Without wasting any further time, I would like to call upon Ayushi Didi to give in her viewpoints and her reviews. Didi.
Thank you, Aditya. So, first of all, great job, the hosts. You guys were amazing. Am I audible?
Yes, Didi, you're audible.
Oh, just a second. I hope I'm visible too.
Yes, Didi.
Okay. So first of all, an amazing job done by the host, Aditya, Saurav, and Ridha as well. You guys were absolutely phenomenal. I did not, I never even at a single point felt this was a college level debate. You guys did such a commendable job. Super organized. Everything was so amazing. Great job, first of all. I'm really thankful to the organizing committee because without you guys, even the speakers and us, all of us wouldn't have had such an amazing experience. And then I'll come to the few points that I do want to mention to the speakers. You guys were really great and well collected points and very well formulated your ideas. Even during the rebuttal, you guys were very quick to ask questions, give your answers and everything. It was impressive. But a few points that when you are going to participate in further debates, you should keep in mind. So the first one, do not hurry. You are given 3 minutes. You need to convince others with your points, right? You are not supposed to complete as many points as you can. No, you have to convince others with the points that you're speaking. Quality is important, quantity is not. We see the quality. Next, we have the facts that you're giving. They should sound pleasing to my ear, the judge's ear, and everybody's ear. So you are some of the people were giving blatant facts, okay, in this year this has happened, this has happened. So that they're fine, but try to give it in a way so that they sound pleasing. It shouldn't just sound like plain fact. When you're in a debate, it's a good practice to say it in a way or deliver it in a way that it should sound better than how others do. Then the third point, please stick to the time limit. You are given 2 minutes, you are given 3 minutes, stick to that time limit. We were definitely deducting marks for all those who exceeded the time limit. Because if you are exceeding the time limit, that means you are not able to put forward your points in that given time. So try to formulate your answers in that way. Then, so I liked one thing about one of the speakers. I do not remember who exactly it was, but they mentioned about somebody else's speech in their own speech. So, okay, this speaker mentioned this, and I want to counter this point. So that is a really good practice. This means that you're listening to other speakers. Asking questions is not just sufficient. If you're doing this, that's a really good practice. Then, also, try to be natural. Do not try to make an accent or anything. Try to be as natural as possible. We would love you the way you are. Okay. So, and then if I come to the topic, I feel definitely God did not give us all the right to tame the animals, to torture them or exploit them. They are as important as we are. We just have a lot of ego that we think that we are given the authority to take care of those animals. No, they can definitely take care of themselves. But yes, if some of the animal is getting endangered in its own natural habitat, as a species on this planet, it's our responsibility to protect them. And if zoos are there, if they can in some way or the other help, then they should be promoted. But not in a way that they are the practice of zoo is being practiced all over the world. I have seen so many the zoos that I have visited in my life. Some of were like really good. The animals were given proper care, food and everything. That's fine. But if you are capturing the animal in just a 6 feet box when it is supposed to roam in yards and hectares, it's not justified at all. I think Vaishnavi mentioned the point that since we were in a quarantine and we all got depressed, we all got anxiety and whatnot. We felt so bad that we are so confined. So that's exactly what happens with the animals as well. So zoos are they shouldn't just be for entertainment. If you're trying to protect the species, they are fine. But what I feel is when any organization or any person is trying to open up a zoo in any city or something, there should be very strict rules that, okay, if you don't stick to all of these things, if you don't match these criteria, I'm really sorry, you can't open a zoo. And there should be a regular check going on continuously. These can be the ways in which we can improve the situation, the conditions, and all those zoos that do not achieve all the criteria should be shut down at the moment. So this is what I think about the topic in general, and definitely they serve as educational purposes, and we do feel a connection if we are in the presence of that animal. But yeah, that does not give us a right to exploit some other species. So yes, it was a great session. It was a great debate. You guys, all of you did an amazing job. Whosoever wins, it does not matter. All of you were phenomenal. You guys were, like, you took part, that's a great deal. I hope you all enjoyed too, because I loved it. I love this event. I love the host. I love the organizers. I loved everybody over here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi. We are blessed.
Thank you so much, Didi. Like, this is exactly the reason why we all look up to you. Like, you are like a role model for me.
Oh my God, that means a lot.
Thank you so much, Didi. Your words mean a lot. So next, I would like to call Monjita Didi for giving her viewpoints and her reviews.
Yeah. Monster, you're muted. Okay, yeah.
Oh my God, my phone. Yeah. Hi. I think Ayushi has covered a lot of it, and exactly, the way the entire thing was organized and the way the participants, each one of you was so full of confidence in, putting forward your points, answering each other's questions, questioning each other. I think this actually did not feel like a, college level or an in-house kind of a debate. It was great. And talking about the points, certain points that Ayushi had also mentioned, that was very important. And I felt like, apart from the regular arguments of the animal cruelty part there, or the other side will talk about amusement and why we need for it for the educational purpose and all. I think that all of you added a lot of new dimensions to the topic as well, and a lot of us and all of us, I personally got to learn a lot of new things from all of you. So I like the fact that it was not monotonous, which is what I like. There were a few repetitive points, which is what I'd like to point. Like there were certain points about, you don't need to go to, you need to see animals at the zoo in order to love them, and kind of like polar bears needing 1,000 kilometers space in order to run. Guess I'm gonna see polar bears in my dreams at night. But I think there were certain repetitive points, which is what brings in the point that Ayushi mentioned, is to listen, right? So we want you to listen to others, so that you actually, so that you can, even in your speeches, it's not just the speech that you prepare, not just the points that you prepare at home, but being in the actual competition, listening to others. If somebody has already stated a point, or somebody said something which you do not think is, you do not agree with that, incorporating that in your speech is something that is more ad hoc, I would say, not something that you already prepared at home, but that is something that you're, when you're listening to others and you're making out of it. So that is something that should be kept in mind, I would say. And yes, so listening to the part, and also when you're asking people questions, a lot of you, I understand, you did a lot of research, and probably there were lots of points, and you wanted to put forward your points, right? So you were rushing with your speech, you were, even in your questions, you wanted to put a lot of points. But that's not a point of it. It's not about, even when you're asking a question, it's not about creating an essay out of your question, but it's about, it's about sticking to the point. And if you think that somebody said something and that can be included in your speech, that is a great way of utilizing your time. And instead of repeating points, that also gives you a lot of marks. So you're saying something different. It shows that you're listening. It shows that you are more spontaneous. You're more out there, not just preparing a speech at home and speaking, because that would be like a speech competition. And we're going to run that. So I think but yes, obviously lots of interesting points. I loved how interesting this entire thing turned out to be, and most importantly, the confidence that you guys brought to the table, putting forward your points and being nice. And I think all of you have great potential. So best wishes for the future and great work. Big round of applause to the organizers, to Aditya, to Manav, Nitesh was there, and all the other organizers for great work, guys. And we hope to have more of these debate competitions in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Didi. And yeah, definitely we get a lot to take home from this, and
exactly.
Truly a wonderful way of explaining, and a wonderful way of getting the small details into picture. Thank you so much, Didi. A real reason why I think we all really look up to you. Thank you so much, Didi.